I should have been happy that night. It was my birthday, a Saturday, the kind of night you're supposed to spend surrounded by people you care about. Drinks in hand, smiling for photos, pretending time isn't moving faster than you can hold it. Harper planned the whole thing. She rented out this sleek little art gallery in San Diego's Gaslamp Quarter. Modern, minimalist, expensive. Exposed steel beams, whitewashed walls, track lighting bathing abstract canvases in warm yellow. A jazz trio played near the back. Upright bass, brushed snare, and a guy on sax who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. There were floating candles in the courtyard. Champagne in stemless glasses. Charcuterie boards that looked more like installations than food. And everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. "You hit the jackpot, man," said my friend Caleb, slapping my shoulder as he nodded toward Harper. "She really knows how to make a guy feel special." I smiled back. I played along. But there was this dull pressure building behind my ribs. That creeping fog that rolls in right before a storm breaks. Because while Caleb was rambling about brie and fig jam, I noticed something. On Harper's wrist, just under the edge of her loose, silk cuff, was a pale yellow band. Plastic hotel wristband. Not flashy. You'd miss it if you weren't paying attention. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Then I saw another one. On Owen's wrist. Same yellow band. Same barcode. Same slight crease from where it had been tugged off and retightened. His sleeves were rolled up casually, like he wanted people to notice. Owen, her coworker, her strategic brand advisor, whatever that meant. The guy who somehow always needed Harper to align decks with him in person. The guy whose name started coming up a little too often. The guy who now had matching wristwear with my wife at my birthday party. That should have been the first warning *T. But it wasn't even the only thing. When Owen leaned in to give me a half-hug hello, I caught a wave of something familiar. At first, I couldn't place it. But as he pulled away, it hit me again. The scent. Her perfume. Not just similar to. Not generic. It was hers. The one she keeps in the zippered pouch she only packs when she travels. Something expensive and musky that she says makes her feel expensive, too. I hadn't smelled it on her in weeks. But there it was, hanging on his collar like a signature. I tried not to react. But my mind started replaying things in real time, connecting dots that had been floating for months. And then the gestures. Harper adjusted his tie for him, straightened it, smoothed it out with her palm, like they were alone in a hotel suite, getting ready for dinner. I watched her fingers linger a little too long on his chest. Later, I caught her touching his arm as she laughed at some joke. Once, I saw her whisper something in his ear. He laughed, then leaned in again. Her hand rested lightly at the small of his back. Barely noticeable. Mate. Not office banter. Not coworker chemistry. This was something else. But no one else noticed. Or maybe they did and just didn't want to get involved. That was Harper's talent. She could paint over suspicion with polish. Wrap a lie in a smile and sell it as charm. She worked the room like a seasoned hostess, introducing Owen to guests like he was part of the furniture. "Oh, you've met Owen, haven't you? He's been such a lifesaver on this pitch I've been buried in. Couldn't have pulled this off without him." And just like that, he was framed as a friend, a colleague, a helper, a guest of honor by association. Everything she said was plausible. Just plausible enough to keep me from making a scene. But inside, I was shaking. I pulled away for a minute, stepped outside to the side terrace, pretending I was checking on a work call. My chest felt tight. My palms were sweating. I could hear the jazz drifting out through the open doors. Conversations, laughter, clinking glasses. The kind of ambience that covers secrets well. Then I saw it. Harper's phone, left charging on the gift table inside, face up. For a moment, I just stared at it. The screen dim. Then it lit up. Notification. Booking confirmed. Suite 714. That was all it said. No app name. No contact. Just Suite 714 and the confirmation checkmark with a timestamp from less than 2 hours ago. I stared at it, unblinking. My hands went cold. There was no reason for that notification to exist. She wasn't traveling for work. She wasn't staying downtown. She had explicitly said she'd been burning out on travel lately and wanted to sleep in her own bed that night. But now a hotel suite 714 was booked and confirmed. And she'd received the update while standing beside Owen, laughing at something he said about cross-functional verticals. The worst part? She wasn't even being careful. That notification sat there like it belonged. I set the phone down before she noticed. A few seconds later, she reappeared, smiling, beaming, a fresh drink in her hand. "Everything okay?" she asked, tilting her head as she reached for her phone. "Yeah," I said, just checking the time. She glanced down at the screen, didn't react, and slipped the phone into her clutch without hesitation. She was either incredibly confident I wouldn't press her, or convinced I wouldn't know what I was looking at. I studied her face for a moment. Her lipstick perfect, her eyes glowing, her posture relaxed, like she hadn't just been exposed, like she hadn't just left a digital breadcrumb wide open. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't some emotional drift. This wasn't burnout or stress or a temporary disconnect. Something had shifted, quietly, sharply, and now it was wearing a wristband, leaning on her shoulder, and whispering in her ear while pretending to admire abstract art. Back inside, people kept clapping me on the back, raising glasses, talking about how amazing Harper was for putting it all together. "Nate, she's a keeper," someone said. "I don't know how you got so lucky." I nodded. I smiled. I thanked them. I posed for photos I'll probably delete. But every time Harper brushed past me with Owen at her heels, I felt the ground tilt slightly beneath me. It was like being the only sober person at a party, watching everything unfold through clear glass while everyone else floated in warm denial. I kept thinking about the wristbands, the perfume, the way she placed her hand flat against Owen's back when they posed for a photo. I thought about her recent trips, the sudden ones, the ones where she'd say, "It's a client I can't reschedule," or "It's just a quick overnight." The ones where she'd come home late, throw her bag in the laundry, and jump in the shower before saying anything else. I hadn't asked questions. I trusted her. Stupid. Even as I stood there surrounded by friends, gifts, and well wishes, all I could feel was the hollow ache of something coming undone. I didn't know yet how deep it went. I didn't have the whole picture, but I had enough. Enough to know the air between us had changed. Enough to know that Suite 714 wasn't a fluke. That wristbands didn't lie. That perfume doesn't end up on someone else's collar by accident. Harper kept laughing with her friends. Owen refilled her drink like it was second nature. And me? I stood by the exhibit in the corner, some absurdly priced installation made of shattered mirrors, and saw myself reflected back in 20 different angles. And none of them looked happy. After the gallery night, I couldn't unsee anything. I told myself I needed time to think, to give her the benefit of the doubt. But that phrase quickly became a lifeline I didn't even believe in. I kept replaying the moment her phone lit up, that calm glance down at the confirmation for Suite 714, and the way she looked right through me after. From that night forward, everything started sticking out. The little things, ones I'd ignored for months, suddenly felt like red flags I should have recognized. For starters, Harper started leaving the house earlier than she used to. She used to roll out of bed around 7:45, sipping coffee while checking email in her robe. Lately, she was dressed and out the door before I even hit snooze. "Morning meetings," she said. "Or prep calls." Always said in that cheerful, distracted voice, like she was halfway out the door before her words even landed. Even when I offered to drive her or bring her coffee, she'd wave me off. "Don't worry," she'd say with a quick kiss that landed more on air than skin. "It's just work. Work." Everything was just work. Except it wasn't. One night, she came home long past 10:30. I was half asleep on the couch, and she smelled like champagne and bergamot. She smiled, kicked off her heels, and said they'd won the client. I asked her which one. She blinked. "Which one what?" "Which client?" "Oh, the renewable energy firm. The one in La Jolla." Except she'd told me the La Jolla firm passed 2 weeks ago. I remembered because she'd complained about the project being a waste of strategy hours. When I reminded her, she smiled faintly. Right? No, this was a different energy group. I got them confused. Harper never got details confused. That was when I started writing things down. Just timestamps and notes, nothing major. But my gut needed validation. Monday, team drinks at Seabird. Home at 11:12 p.m. Wednesday, last-minute pitch fix. Laptop locked in case. Didn't open it when she came home. Friday, video shoot at Harbor. Came back wearing heels but claimed it was all remote work. I wasn't snooping, not yet. I just didn't trust my memory anymore. I started collecting facts like puzzle pieces, waiting to see if they'd form a picture. Then came the tech shift. Harper was never secretive with her devices. Her phone used to buzz constantly across the counter, with previews of Slack messages, emails, Instagram DMs. But right after the gallery night, the notifications disappeared. She turned them off completely, changed her passcode too. I didn't even realize it until she asked me to grab her phone from the kitchen one night. I tried swiping up, only to be greeted by a new 6-digit lock screen I'd never seen before. I handed it to her. "You changed your code?" She shrugged. "IT made us. Security compliance thing. You know how it is." Except I didn't. She'd been using the same code since we got married. Something about the sudden change made me feel like I was on the outside of a room I used to live in. She also started locking her laptop. Not just closing it, locking it. Carrying it in a zippered leather case that she kept zipped even when she was home. She never used to bring it to bed. But now it sat on her nightstand like a sentinel. Once, she left the case open by mistake and went to shower. I stood in the doorway for 10 minutes just staring at it. I never touched it. Not then. But that's when I realized I didn't just feel distant from her. I felt locked out of her life entirely. Another change. The packages. Harper started receiving these sleek, designer packages. Small boxes with embossed branding. Not unusual for her line of work. She often reviewed PR packages and influencer kits from beauty and lifestyle brands. But something didn't sit right. These boxes had no gift notes. No "hope you enjoy" cards. Just shipping labels and packing slips addressed to her name, with no company return addresses. The kind of thing someone might bring home discreetly, except she didn't seem interested in hiding them. What got me, though, was the fact that she never opened them in front of me. They'd arrive, she'd smile, toss them into her office and say, "Just more samples. Nothing exciting." But one evening I peeked into her office when she was in the shower. 2 of the boxes had been torn open, just enough to check the contents, but nothing was displayed. One box had a silk robe still folded in tissue. The other had a handwritten card that had been ripped in half and shoved into the recycling. The pieces were there. I just didn't know how they connected yet. Then there were the boutique charges. I review our finances monthly. We have shared accounts, but I don't micromanage. Still, I noticed a pattern: regular payments every 2 weeks to a hotel near the bay. Small charges. Room service amounts. Bar tabs. A recurring valet charge. I checked our calendar. No company offsites. No client stays. I asked her one night, casually, "Hey, what's the deal with the Bayfront hotel charges? You working with a client over there?" She didn't flinch. "Oh yeah, they've got these new meeting pods we've been renting out for client briefings. Cheaper than co-working spaces." That sounded clever. Logical. I even nodded, thinking, okay, maybe I'm overreacting. But the next day, I checked the hotel's website. No meeting pods. Just luxury suites, a rooftop bar, and a full spa menu. When I mentioned it the following week, she said, "Oh, they must have rebranded the offering." Like she had the answers rehearsed. Our routines crumbled after that. She started canceling plans, things we used to look forward to. We'd made reservations for our anniversary at a place in Julian, one of those mountain inns with fireplaces and hiking trails. She canceled the week before, citing a brand emergency that came up. "Owen's flying in," she said. "We've got to present the pitch in person." Owen again. It was always Owen. Our physical closeness, meanwhile, had gone completely numb. She'd still kiss me goodbye. Still say, love you, when walking out the door. But they were muscle memory words, empty, soft, robotic. We hadn't really touched in weeks. I couldn't remember the last time she looked at me and saw me. And I hated that I'd started pulling away too. I catch myself pretending to sleep when she got home. Avoiding her gaze when she asked if I wanted tea. I felt like a ghost in my own home, orbiting a version of her that didn't see me anymore. The worst part? No one else noticed. To our friends, we were still couple goals. Still throwing dinner parties with her curated playlists and my overpriced wine pairings. Still posting filtered photos of weekend getaways that felt staged even as we took them. People called us perfect. But all I saw was a marriage shrinking in plain sight. One night, I walked past the bedroom and saw her on a video call with Owen. She didn't hear me. The door was cracked, and I could hear her laughing softly. He said something about not wearing the robe yet, and she playfully shushed him. My chest tightened. I didn't barge in. I didn't ask questions. But that night, I booked a room, Suite 721, at the same Bayfront hotel, just to see how it felt. To sit in the same lobby she might have walked through. To lie in a bed that might have mirrored hers. To pretend I was someone who had already made up his mind. I didn't stay the night. I went home, showered, and pretended I'd been out with colleagues. But something broke open that night. Not because I had answers, but because I was finally ready to stop pretending the questions weren't there. The gap between us wasn't just emotional anymore. It was strategic, intentional, built, and I was done standing on the edge of it, waiting for her to reach back. It happened on a Saturday. Not the kind of Saturday you plan around. No brunch, no to-do list, no lingering over coffee in the kitchen while the sun spills in through the window. This one felt cold, mechanical. I had no plans with Harper, no expectations anymore, just the weight of everything unspoken between us. She told me she was working late again. Client prep, she said the night before. Owen's team is pulling together the mock-ups, and we've got to finesse the storyboard. I didn't even ask which client. I just nodded, told her good luck, and walked away before she could smile that detached smile she'd been perfecting for weeks. That morning, I stopped by the townhouse to pick up a USB drive I'd forgotten. I'd moved some of my work equipment to a co-working space nearby, mostly as an excuse to stay out of the house longer. I didn't like how quiet it had become between us. I didn't like the tension that hovered in the corners like fog no one wanted to acknowledge. Sometimes being elsewhere felt like mercy. But that Saturday, something told me to go home. I didn't announce I was coming. I figured she wouldn't be there anyway. I just wanted to grab my files and go. As I pulled up to the curb across the street, I noticed something odd. Harper's car was already parked in the garage. That wasn't unusual by itself. Maybe she had come home to change. But then I saw another car pull into the driveway behind me. A rental. Tinted windows. Familiar silhouette. Owen. My stomach dropped. He parked, got out casually, holding a matte black tote bag. I stayed frozen in my car, low enough so he wouldn't spot me. As he walked up the path to our front door, the camera over the entryway blinked red. Motion detected. Recording. Good. I reached for my phone and opened the smart home app. Door unlocked. 11:14 a.m. Then, door locked. 11:15 a.m. Two separate entries. Harper entered at 11:13 a.m. Owen at 11:14. The log showed it clearly. Barely a minute apart. Neither of them had entered the house together, but they might as well have. I leaned back, heart pounding in my chest. My hands were clammy, and my mouth was dry. I stared across the street at my own front door like it belonged to someone else. Then I saw it happen. Through the front bay window, I saw the faintest movement, a blur of motion, a flicker of bodies. I instinctively raised my phone and started taking photos. One after another. There they were, standing just inside the doorway, Harper with both arms around Owen, laughing at something he said. Her fingers traced the line of his collar, adjusting it like she used to do with mine. Then, God help me, she kissed him. Not on the cheek, not a peck. On the side of his neck, slow and deliberate, her eyes closed like it meant something. He didn't flinch. He just smiled, set down the tote bag, and pulled her in. I kept snapping. 3sh*ts. 5, 7. I don't know how many. It was all time-stamped, dated, logged, and I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel rage. I felt empty, hollow, like every nerve in my body had just shut off. I stayed there for another 10 minutes, parked across the street like a stranger, staring at the home I'd once fought to build. No movement after that. Curtains shifted slightly. Lights turned on upstairs. They were in there together. I checked the camera log again. No exit. Just one long stretch of stillness after that last lock. At 11:27 a.m., I saw another update. Device connected, Harper's laptop. Then another. Guest Wi-Fi access granted, Owen's iPhone. So casual. So routine. Like this wasn't the first time. I didn't go in. I didn't bang on the door. I didn't yell or demand an explanation. I just backed out slowly, drove a few blocks down, parked near the marina, and sat there staring at the water. My phone still buzzing from a notification Harper had scheduled earlier. A calendar event. Reminder, prep call with Owen, remote, 11:30 a.m. I almost laughed. The lie was already programmed. Back at the apartment that evening, I uploaded everything. I synced the door cam footage, pulled the logs from the smart lock, compiled the photo timestamps, created a private folder and labeled it plainly. Proof. It felt clinical, like I was an investigator filing a report. But it was easier than feeling the heartbreak all at once. Later, I saw Harper's name pop up on my phone. A text. Hey babe, super long day. Hope yours went okay. Grabbing a late dinner with the team. Might stay at the hotel again to get a fresh start in the morning. Love you. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't respond. I didn't even flinch. I was past disbelief, past wondering. All that was left was silence. She didn't even lie creatively anymore. The hotel? Again? Same excuse, different weekend. And I was willing to bet Suite 714 had new sheets and a bottle of Merlot chilling on the nightstand by now. That night, I reviewed the photos one more time. Zoomed in, cropped, enhanced. Her hand on the back of his neck. Her eyes closed. The branded hotel tote in Owen's hand. That was the final detail. I'd seen that tote before, in the back seat of Harper's car 2 weeks earlier. She said it was a welcome gift from a client onboarding event. Turns out it was a souvenir from her affair. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't pace or cry or drink. I just laid there, my mind blank, staring at the ceiling in that tiny apartment with bare walls and unopened boxes. I kept thinking about how slowly this all happened, how subtly people fade from each other, how you can live under the same roof and still be miles apart. And yet, even now, part of me wanted her to say something real. I wanted her to confess, to own it, to give me the dignity of truth. But I already knew that wasn't coming. Everything I'd seen, the body language, the digital trail, the hotel bookings, the physical closeness, the lies, it all converged in one undeniable conclusion. I wasn't her husband anymore, not in the way that mattered. I was a placeholder, a front, a convenience for optics. She had made her choice long ago. I was just the last one to find out. And now that I knew the truth, I had to decide what to do with it. The rage never came, just resolve. In the morning, I created a duplicate folder with all the documentation and moved it to a flash drive. I slid it into a drawer in my desk, labeled in Sharpie, Archive 1. I didn't know when I'd use it, or if, but something told me I would. Soon. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Not my friends. Not my parents. Not Harper. Especially not Harper. There's a kind of clarity that only shows up after a fall. Once the betrayal settles, once the reality sharpens into a point, you stop needing closure. You stop needing explanations. You realize that some endings aren't made of screaming and slammed doors. They're made of silence, stillness, the quiet flick of a key left on the counter. And that's exactly how I left. She was out again that evening. Some rooftop dinner with select stakeholders, according to her calendar invite. I didn't have to guess who was at the table with her. I could picture it. Harper in one of her curated dresses, legs crossed, smiling politely, while Owen told some charming anecdote about branding KPIs. The whole thing probably looked professional on the surface. But I knew better. That gave me a window. A short one. I'd been planning my exit in pieces, testing logistics, shifting money, preparing backups. It didn't start with revenge. It started with self-preservation. That evening, I made it real. At 7:42 p.m., a relocation service I'd quietly hired pulled up to the townhouse in an unmarked white van. The two men I contracted were efficient, quiet, and, more importantly, paid in full ahead of time under a limited visibility invoice. They didn't ask questions. I didn't offer any. They loaded up exactly what I told them. My work equipment, personal keepsakes, important documents, a few changes of clothes, and my grandfather's old watch. I left behind the rest: wedding photos, shared furniture, kitchen sets, the guest room linens. It wasn't mine anymore. I didn't want to carry dead weight into a new life. By 8:15 p.m., my side of the house was empty. I walked through the rooms one last time. Everything was still and dim. The hallway lights were on a motion sensor. They clicked softly as I passed. I paused in our bedroom doorway, our bed still made, her robe draped over the armchair. On the dresser, she'd left a sticky note for herself. Q2 launch targets finalized with Owen. Even when she wasn't there, he was. I didn't touch anything. Downstairs, I placed a small white envelope on the entry table. Inside was every house key I still had: front door, garage, mailbox, storage. No note, just the keys. That was all she'd need to understand. Before I left, I disabled my access to the smart system. No more door logs, no more cameras, no more surveillance. The house was hers now, fully and officially. I revoked my admin profile and disconnected my phone from the Nest thermostat. Deleted the app. That was the final step. Once you cut the digital thread, there's no going back. At 8:37 p.m., I closed the front door for the last time, and I disappeared. I moved into a small unit in an older building across town. A third-floor walk-up with no elevator, no concierge, and no HOA board asking about shared responsibilities. The kind of place you could vanish inside without raising suspicion. Anonymous, quiet, exactly what I needed. The lease wasn't in my name. It belonged to a corporate entity I'd established years ago, originally meant for side consulting work. Marbridge Data LLC. A shell, really, but perfectly legal. The mailbox outside read only M. Data. The landlord asked no questions. All he cared about was the deposit and the automatic rent transfer. The place came furnished, and that was the point. I didn't want to bring the past with me. I wanted blank walls, empty drawers, silence. I got it. That first night, I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the city hum below me. No arguments. No fake phone calls behind closed doors. No Harper whispering on the balcony. Just the low thrum of traffic and the occasional bark of a dog 2 blocks away. It was peaceful, and it was heartbreaking, because somewhere across town, Harper was still at her dinner. Still laughing, still charming, still holding a wine glass she didn't pay for. She probably hadn't even noticed I was gone. Maybe she wouldn't until the morning. Maybe not until Monday. But eventually, she'd walk in and realize what happened. And that would be enough. The next day, I closed every shared account. Banking, subscriptions, streaming services, even the grocery delivery login. I forwarded my mail to a P.O. box registered under the LLC. Changed every password. Switched phone carriers. Called the insurance agent and removed myself from the policy. Froze my credit with every bureau. Filed a change of address form with no forwarding notice. Clean cuts. I wasn't just leaving Harper. I was leaving the entire version of myself that kept waiting for her to come back. The hardest part wasn't disappearing. It was resisting the urge to explain it. I drafted a message once, just one. Not to send, but to see if I could put the words together. Harper, you made your choice. I made mine. There's nothing left to discuss. And I never sent it. I deleted it before the period dried in my mind. She didn't deserve the closure. Not after what I saw. Not after what she hid while smiling across a dinner table and calling it work. I didn't block her number. I didn't unfriend her. I just vanished. Quietly. Completely. I knew she'd start to panic when her Amex card bounced. When the Hulu login stopped working. When the dry cleaning bill came to her personal card and she realized the joint account had been shut down. I pictured her trying to text me. Probably starting with a, "Hey, something weird's happening," and ending with, "Where are you?" But I didn't need to see any of it. If she wanted to know where I went, she could ask Owen. Maybe he had another suite booked. A few days later, I got a notification from the townhouse's property manager. She'd received the keys in the envelope. No questions asked. Just a system update. Tenant departure recorded. Acknowledged. I read it twice. Then I archived the email and shut the laptop. My move was done. Not just physical but emotional, too. I wasn't hoping for justice. I wasn't waiting for karma. I wasn't even interested in watching Harper spiral. That wasn't the point. I left because I had to reclaim myself. Because no matter how smooth she made the lies look, no matter how cleverly she dressed them up in deadlines and decks, the truth was always there, threading its way through her absence. She had already left. I just made it official. Disappearing was the first half. Protecting what I'd built, that was the second. And I'd been preparing for it longer than I admitted, even to myself. The truth is, I had always known my project, Meridian, would need protection someday. What started as a side hustle, an encrypted messaging protocol for internal enterprise use, had evolved into something bigger. I'd written every line of code, designed every interface, tested every update. It was clean, efficient, and fully mine. And I wasn't about to let it become collateral damage in a crumbling marriage. So once I was gone, I started locking it down. The first step was transferring ownership. On paper, Meridian no longer belonged to me, it belonged to a trust. One I'd established under an anonymous Delaware LLC, controlled through a Wyoming-registered agent who'd never heard my real name. Midline Holdings, it was called. Harmless. Vague. Like a medical supply distributor or a shipping warehouse. Perfect cover. The trust owned the company. The company owned the IP. And I appeared in the chain only once as a contract developer. Paid a fixed monthly retainer, plus performance-based licensing incentives. No equity. No official title. Just a guy on the payroll. If Harper or anyone else tried to look me up in relation to it, they'd find nothing. A ghost in the machine. I migrated the repositories to segmented servers with multi-factor access and zero cloud sync. Everything critical was distributed across encrypted nodes, only retrievable via air-gapped backups that rotated daily. No one touched the code but me. No one ever would. Once that was secured, I turned to our joint finances. We had a credit line together, one of those just-in-case arrangements we'd set up years ago to cover big expenses. Furniture. Flights. A couple's weekend in Vancouver we never ended up taking. She used it a lot more than I did. I canceled it outright. No warning. No partial freeze. Just a full termination with a balance payout from my private account. I wanted a clean break, not a paper trail. 3 hours later, I got an alert that Harper had attempted a purchase. Clothing site. Declined. An hour after that, another attempt, this time at a boutique grocery chain. Declined again. I imagined her at the register, card in hand, brow furrowed, trying to figure out why it wasn't going through. Probably assumed it was a fraud hold. She might have even texted me. I never saw it. I'd already silenced her thread. That same night, I sent an internal alert to the team I'd assembled remotely. 2 developers I trusted, plus a systems admin who worked out of Austin. The message was simple. Push phase 2 forward. Quietly. Maintain modular access. No third-party requests accepted until further notice. They didn't ask why. They just followed the chain of custody. They knew I'd been burned before. Once during a freelance project when a partner tried to claim half my build-out as shared IP, just because I debugged it on their network. I'd learned then, don't share more than you can afford to lose. Meridian was walled off, protected, legally armored. It was the cleanest thing in my life. And for the first time, that mattered more than ever. Around that time, I noticed Harper's online behavior start to shift. Her Instagram, which used to be dormant between client shoots and sponsored posts, lit up with curated lifestyle sh*ts, rooftop views, cocktails, moody captions about growth, healing, and the grind. The kind of content that people double-tap without realizing they're endorsing a lie. She posted a black and white photo of a branded coffee cup with the caption, "Discomfort is just a stepping stone." I almost laughed. In another one, she posed in front of a hotel lobby mirror, same hotel I'd seen on the smart lock log, tagged #meeting mode #own your lane. It was all performance, projection, because underneath the gloss the cracks had started forming. How do I know? Because my inbox lit up with an alert 2 weeks later. Unrecognized attempt to access backup archive, flagged and blocked. The IP address traced back to an office suite registered under her agency. Not her device, but someone from Owen's team. It wasn't just a mistake. It was deliberate. They'd tried to get into the vault. The one that stored Meridian's audit logs, commit history, contract versions, every legal safeguard I designed to prove authorship. They didn't get in, but they tried, and I documented every bite of it. I forwarded the forensic report to my legal contact, just in case. She didn't need to do anything yet, but she now had a copy on record. Flagged for potential asset dispute, she noted in the system. That single action sealed the record. Harper didn't know it yet, but her access, emotional, professional, financial, was collapsing. From the outside, she was still posting cocktails and sunsets. From the inside, her empire was beginning to rot. Meanwhile, I stabilized. My world shrank, but it became solid. I built a rhythm inside the new place. I kept odd hours, drank too much coffee, took long walks with noise-canceling headphones, even when I wasn't listening to anything. I met deadlines. I deployed patches. I turned down offers from people who only wanted surface rights and front-end access. I said yes to one thing, though. A firm in Austin reached out, an integrator specializing in defense-grade systems for enterprise messaging. They'd heard whispers of Meridian through one of the developers I worked with. We agreed to a private demo, under NDA, off-network. 2 weeks later, I signed a licensing contract. Upfront cash, royalties, full usage rights, 0